Right now on the National Weather Desk, after the storms, from massive hailstones to damaging tornadoes.
You can see through this home on Jackson Street where a tree left a gaping hole.
We'll show you where the severe weather struck yesterday and who needs to be on alert today. The heat is on. Central Texas prepares for a week of triple-digit temperatures.
Extreme heat is about to settle in across the state of Texas.
Cricket invasion. The Nevada town overrun by the irritating insects.
The whole wall was just covered. That really freaked me out.
And not so sweet season? Why the strawberry crop is delayed in one part of the country.
The weather's been difficult this year. We had some late frost.
From our nation's capital, this is the National Weather Desk.
Good morning and welcome to the National Weather Desk. I'm Angela Brown. Severe weather pushed across the south last night, bringing tornadoes, strong winds, and heavy rain from Texas all the way to Georgia. The storms toppled trees, damaged buildings, and even blew cars off a highway while dropping damaging hail in some areas. More than 100,000 customers are still without power this morning in Utah, Alabama. A tornado injured at least one person and destroyed several homes. Megan Scarano has the story.
This is one of the homes destroyed from downed trees in Utah from Wednesday's strong line of storms. You can see through this home on Jackson Street where a tree left a gaping hole, and crews are already working to repair the damage. The other home destroyed in Utah is just a few minutes down the road on Tuscaloosa Street. Family members tell me 2 people were inside of the home when the huge tree fell. Thankfully, they are okay. Chris Jones, the Greene County Ambulance Service Director, tells me one person was trapped, then transported to the hospital for evaluation. Michael Johnson is one of the few already hard at work to repair damage from the strong winds. He's been out here for every major storm over the past couple of months. He says the people of Utah just can't catch a break.
One side of town this time and another side of the town the next time. And it's just, it's just unpredictable. Why, only Lord knows. But it's just happening. We just got to do what we can to be as safe as possible.
There are also a number of utility crews working to restore power throughout the city.
Well, listen to that. Early on Wednesday, hail was the story across Arkansas. This video right here capturing hail the size of tennis balls not far from Little Rock. Hail that big, of course, can cause some big-time problems, from broken windows to dented cars and so much more. Wow. There it is again. This video of hail falling at an Arkansas marina was sent to our station in Little Rock. We don't know exactly where this was shot, but as you can see, the massive hailstones are creating huge splashes right there in the water. And meteorologist Todd Jacobian tweeted out this video right here, capturing at least 3 softball-sized hailstones in Hot Springs. Very impressive, but also can be very dangerous. The threat for more severe weather continues today. About 45 million Americans are under at least a marginal risk of storms today. Look at this. The greatest risk, of course, is in Oklahoma. There's also a tornado watch for the region around Mobile and Pensacola, if I could say that, Pensacola. And as you can see, people from Kansas to northern Florida need to be on alert today for storms that could include tornadoes, hail, and damaging winds. While some parts of the South were walloped by storms and hail, the heat is not paying any attention to the saying, "Don't mess with Texas." Meteorologist Austin Burks is in Austin, Texas, with what they can expect.
Extreme heat is about to settle in across the state of Texas thanks to a high pressure system to the southwest across Mexico that's going to broaden out over the southern half of the state as we go into this weekend. And for the foreseeable future, looking at triple-digit heat with nearly daily record highs for the Austin metro as we go starting on Friday, 105 degrees, and we'll see that continue on for Saturday, for your Sunday as well. Looking at temperatures closing into the mid to upper triple-digit range, 107 Monday and for your Tuesday, and not looking to end in the foreseeable future for the next 7 to 10 days. So if you're outside for long periods of time, make sure to stay cool and hydrated.
Minnesota now has the worst air quality in the nation, and you can blame the Canadian wildfires. Just like last week in the Northeast, the purple on this map from airnow.com shows where the air quality index tops 200. Anything over 100 is considered unhealthy. The good news is the air should start to clear by tomorrow. Intense heat like what could hit Texas puts extra stress on our bodies. You've likely heard of the heat index, but have you heard of the wet bulb globe temperature? Jennifer Collins explains what that is and how it works.
The heat index value is the most common way to measure and explain heat stress on the human body when you factor temperature and humidity. But it has its limitation. The measurement is only taken in the shade and doesn't account for wind speed, sun angle, and cloud cover, which over long periods of time can have an impact on our body. This is where the wet bulb globe temperature fills in the gap. It measures in direct sunlight and takes it all into account. This measurement can help athletes and outdoor workers determine how long they can safely work and exercise in the direct sunlight before their bodies become overstressed. Now, let's say the temperature is 91 degrees with a dew point of 75 degrees. Now, that's all you need to calculate the heat index value, which will be 102 degrees, no matter if there's cloud cover and a breeze. But let's keep the temperature and dew point the same, but measure the wet bulb globe temperature now, where winds are at 15 miles per hour and cloud cover is at about 50%. The wet bulb globe temperature will be 84 degrees, a manageable temperature. But if there's no wind and no cloud cover, the wet bulb globe temperature is now 89 degrees. That's on the high side of the spectrum. Now, anything less than 80 degrees is considered safe for work and exercise outside. If the wet bulb globe temperature, though, climbs into the 80s, that's when our bodies become more stressed and breaks should be taken every hour. A temperature over 90 degrees now, this is where your body becomes is now at a high risk for heat exhaustion or even heat stroke. And work or exercise should be limited with 45 minutes of breaks for every 15 minutes of work.
And more evidence this morning that New Hampshire's Mount Washington has some of the worst weather in the world. The last snowfall of the season on the mountains is typically in early to mid-June. So far this month, nearly 8.5 inches, making this the snowiest June dating back to the start of record keeping in 1932. The next story is bound to bug some of you. Mormon crickets have invaded a Nevada community. Look at this. They are simply everywhere, on the roads, on buildings, even on people's clothing. The good news is that these critters right here, they don't bite, but as Lincoln Graves reports, people just want them to go away.
Residents around town say they've been dealing with these for weeks, and they are tired of it. It is a creepy, crawly, nasty, disturbing sight.
It's bugging me. Oh, it's bugging me.
Parts of Elko are covered in swarming and migrating Mormon crickets. They're on the roads.
You can see that they're moving and crawling, and the whole road's crawling, and it just makes your skin crawl. It's just so gross.
And they cover some homes.
When we looked out here, the whole wall was just covered. That really freaked me out.
Colette Reynolds has been dealing with them for a few days.
It causes depression, anxiety. You feel super violated. When you're inside the house, it sounds like it's raining, because they just randomly let go of wherever they're hanging onto and drop.
These swarms happen a lot, but they get noticed in a populated area, according to Jeff Knight, the Nevada state entomologist.
We move more and more into the native habitat where these crickets normally occur.
He says it's not entirely known why they swarm and migrate, and there are limited options for people to keep them at bay.
There is a pesticide route if they want to go that route. There's a route of tolerate it, and they probably will move through.
There are also cricket fences, which they can't climb. Colette is trying to tolerate for now, hoping they disappear quickly.
Some people say they'll move through 3 or 5 days, but for some reason they're really sticking around our house. I'm not sure why.
We can, of course, get Mormon cricket infestations in Utah. We've had bad swarms before, but right now we're seeing most of these swarms in Nevada, Idaho, and parts of southeast Oregon.
Choppy waters off the North Carolina coast didn't stop some anglers from trying to catch the one that wouldn't get away. 271 boats are fishing in this year's Big Rock Blue Marlin tournament. This 408-pound marlin is what one team caught yesterday. The contest ends on Saturday. So far, the number one catch weighs 470 pounds. And coming up on the National Weather Desk, we'll talk with a student about her research into restoring the world's ocean reefs. And we're heading into strawberry picking season. We'll look at how the weather is impacting this year's crops. But first, a test of your weather wit. Precipitation that vaporizes before making it to the Earth's surface is known as what? Fog, virga, cloud droplets, or haze? The answer when we return.
I'm meteorologist Charlie Lopresti with a look at the Northeast. Most areas in the Northeast today should warm nicely through the 70s and even some low 80s are possible. The rain from yesterday, thunderstorms from yesterday, that has moved out. Now, there could be a few pop-up showers this afternoon. That's 2 o'clock in the afternoon. There we are with temps in the 70s to near 80. We have another disturbance that's approaching from the west on Friday. Best chance for showers and thunderstorms will be in New York, New Jersey, and northern New England. More wet weather will be moving in on Saturday.
I'm meteorologist Jonathan Myers, and here's a look at the mid-Atlantic region. Temperatures warming through the 60s and into the 70s as we head through the about 8-9 a.m. hour on our Thursday. And look at these temperatures in the afternoon. Highs getting well up into the 80s for most neighborhoods with a lot of sunshine. Notice some of those cooler numbers up toward Cleveland. That's because of a weather maker with some showers that could displace our sunny and warm weather, at least for some, as we head into Friday. That's the scene here.
Good morning. I'm meteorologist Michael Ehrenberg with a look at your southeast regional forecast for this Thursday. Along a stalled out frontal boundary from central Alabama into South Georgia, there will be some showers and storms focusing with very heavy rain, the potential for flooding and severe weather. And some of that can move into extreme North Florida during the late afternoon and early evening hours with isolated late day sea breeze storms over the southeast Florida coast. Temperatures are going to be in the 80s north of that boundary, 90s for Florida.
Watching the National Weather Desk.
Before the break, we asked you to identify precipitation that vaporizes before making it to the Earth's surface. The answer is B, virga. This happens when precipitation falls from the base of a cloud but evaporates when it hits drier air on the way down. That's why we never see it and the ground remains dry. But the radar can still pick it up, and here's an example. It was captured in this photo by Tom Harris of Traverse City, Michigan. Nearly 1 year ago, parts of Montana were devastated when the Yellowstone River jumped its banks throughout the Paradise Valley, leaving a nightmarish trail of destruction along the way. The small town of Red Lodge was hit especially hard, and recently the city's mayor took Jonathan May along for a first-hand look at the aftermath 1 year later.
The water was just pulsing through there. You could see a tree that just went screaming through the whole structure.
Mayor Kristen Cogswell took me on a car ride across Red Lodge so I could see the scars the flood left behind.
Pretty much of a disaster, but it's a work in progress.
The city woke up to a horrific natural disaster on June 13th last year. Bridges washed away and raging waters around this fallen home. Roads torn apart and cars left in ditches. More than 100 homes flooded in Carbon County, and officials say about 8 public bridges washed away. The mayor tells me she'll never forget what happened.
The water coming down Broadway, and just the sheer noise that these tumbling boulders, hundreds of tumbling boulders just came pulsing down the creek. I mean, it was, I've never heard anything like that before.
After the floodwaters arrived, community members hoped water levels would recede as quickly as they rose. They didn't, leading everyone to work together to salvage what they could.
The residents came from all over. There were hundreds of residents that were filling sandbags and trying to just stop the water. And, you know, the efforts that people made were, I'll never forget that.
While you can still see where the waters flowed through the city, the mayor tells me with help from the state and federal agencies, much has been repaired. In February, FEMA approved $1.5 million in public assistance funding for road repairs in Red Lodge. The goal is to repair 27 sites along 11 different roadways. And the mayor hopes the improvements will also be able to withstand future flooding events.
You can see a lot of this riprap that will channel the creek a lot better. We didn't have a lot of that beforehand.
Cogswell says there are still more projects to take care of, and adds Red Lodge residents are keeping their fingers crossed that a flood like this never happens again.
As we approach the middle of June, many are thinking about heading to the fields for some strawberry picking. But in Green Bay, Wisconsin, recent frosty weather caused some damage and delays to farms in that area. But producers say there's still time for a good crop this year. Eric Peterson has more.
On this quiet farm field south of Crickets, Chris Blazer says recent cold and dry conditions took a toll.
The weather's been difficult this year. We had some late frost. It took out about half the crop of the early variety. The second big problem this year has been the rain. We finally got rain Saturday and yesterday. We still could use some more, but we're good. We did a ton of irrigating. We pumped more water than we ever have.
The Blazers Acres owner says it's a similar story 40 miles to the south at his other strawberry farm in Swamico.
Down here, we lost probably 20%. So a little less severity in Green Bay versus Crickets.
He says plans to offer pick-your-own strawberries at both farms are pushed back.
We're going to start pre-picking some berries for stands tomorrow, and the U-pick will start sometime next week.
Blazer says the frost-damaged fruit shouldn't have a big impact on the rest of the picking here.
Just give us a few moments to get going, and you guys will all be able to fill your freezers. If everybody can just hold on and we get through these early berries, once we get into mid-season and late season, the bushes are loaded up and there'll be plenty of berries for everybody. It's just not going to be as fast as normal.
And as we get deeper and deeper into the summer months, it's not just us humans who look forward to fresh fruit. It's bug season as well. The spongy moth is known to eat huge amounts of tree leaves to the point where they can kill several trees in one single season. But there are small things you can do to protect your yard from these invaders. Meteorologist Sam Kaplan has the details.
As the last 2 years taught us, spongy moths can wreak havoc on our trees. While it can be challenging to project the moth's population in advance, their level is expected to be diminished this year. With that being said, one easy tool to control these leaf-eating pests on our own properties is the use of a barrier band.
What happens is the spongy moth caterpillars get blown out of the tree. So they need to return to a tree to feed because they eat the leaves of the trees. So that band prevents any that blew out of the tree from re-entering the foliage canopy up above.
Their population typically rises and falls in cycles of 10 to 15 years, most likely driven by predator-prey interactions. They prefer oak, but feed on the leaves of a large variety of other trees. Fortunately, most of the time, the damage inflicted is reversible.
But you want to remember, a tree can actually get stripped of all of its leaves for a couple of years from these and still recover and come back. And in fact, this maple was totally defoliated 2 years ago, grew another set of leaves. The next year it came back just great.
Spending about 75% of their life as eggs, management can actually begin upon spotting their yellowish-white egg masses seen anytime from August to April.
And if you can scrape those into a can of soapy water and then dispose of them, that will cut down on how many are actually leafing out. Total control is very difficult, but a lot of times you can control it enough to minimize the damage to the trees themselves.
Here's to hoping the spongy moth season upon us is a light one.
And according to Forbes, scientists estimate about 70 to 90% of all coral reefs will disappear over the next 20 years. One woman is diving into coral reef restoration and what can be done to protect them. Cheriston Clark talks with her about what her research reveals.
Morgan Will has spent the last 3 years reaching new depths in her research, finding and studying coral habitats.
So I was using pre-existing models to basically predict where we were going to find new corals in the northeastern Gulf of Mexico area called Pinnacles Trend. And after we made the predictions, we went out to test them. So we looked around and we found a lot of corals, which was great.
To study the corals, they had to use a remote-controlled vehicle to reach the bottom.
It's a big robot pretty much, and it goes down, takes a bunch of video while it's down there, and then when we actually collect the corals to work with them, there's a cool robot arm that comes out and snips pieces, and we put them in the bio box, bring them back up to the surface, and lots of processing on the ship afterwards.
Corals are important in providing habitats, but they face environmental stressors.
But in general, the climate change idea is a big one that we're looking into. There's currently, people are doing models looking at how the climate change might cause corals to go a little deeper to avoid some of it.
The deep sea is calm and steady, so oxygen levels can also be a hazard.
So even slight changes can cause big problems just because the corals aren't used to it. Versus a tropical ecosystem where they get a lot of movement of temperature and pH. They're still sensitive, but ours are maybe a little more so because they're not used to those changes.
The data from the project is still coming in, and Will says once she studies everything, her research will be published.
And we talked earlier about strawberry picking, so let's hit the skies for this view of strawberry fields from above.
Well, a very good Thursday morning, everyone. I'm meteorologist Andrew Buck-Michael. Taking a look at your weather story across the Midwest. Most of the Midwest is dry today. We got a few thunderstorms far to the west here and some showers and storms out over Michigan and Ohio, but most of the Midwest getting into the upper 80s and 90s. A little cooler there in Milwaukee, 69 for the high today, same for tomorrow. And again, it's still pretty dry across most of the central part of the plains. And by the time we get into your Saturday, that rain out to the west continuing to slowly move east.
Good morning. I'm meteorologist Alex Garcia. Here's a look at your regional weather. It's way too warm from Louisiana back on over into South Texas. Cooler as you get into Oklahoma, but plenty of sunshine. Low pressure today and a warm front will help fire up a little bit of some rain up toward the north. We'll keep an eye on some storms right up along that dry line today. Otherwise, temperatures will be running way above the normal down toward the south. I'm meteorologist Alex Garcia, and that's a look at your regional weather.
Well, hi, everybody, and a happy Thursday to you. I'm meteorologist Shannon O'Donnell. Wide array of temps across the west today, anywhere from just the upper 60s due to the June gloom along the coastline in California, including around L.A., on up to 101 out of Phoenix and Tucson. 75 in Spokane. Notice that weather maker pushing over the Continental Divide. That will trigger some thunderstorms back towards Salt Lake City's and Denver's mountainous terrain later today. And that's the scene from here.
You are watching the National Weather Desk.
The summer heat is simmering up, and so are the snakes. Monique Lopez has tips on what you should do if you encounter one of these critters.
They're everywhere. The fact is that for every one you see, you've probably walked past 6.
The best thing to do is just stay calm and just kind of back up and give the snake lots of room. Snakes are not any danger to people as long as you don't have any sort of interaction with them.
Overall, snakes are harmless, but it's the venomous ones most fear.
We average about 5 people a year that die from venomous snake bites, so it's not the scary statistics that a lot of people think it is.
A prime location for snakes is where there is tall grass, a lot of leaves, bushes, or garbage for them to hide. They can also slither on top of rocks to stay warm or near areas they can quickly go back and hide.
If you encounter a snake at your home, your knee-jerk reaction might be to kill it. But experts say stop right there and give them a call.
You don't want to poke at it. You don't want to try to grab it yourself, because a lot of the envenomations that happen are from people who accidentally get bitten while trying.
And we'd love to connect with you on your favorite social media platforms. Just search the National Weather Desk. Well, you may have heard about large numbers of fish washing up on Texas beaches recently, and now the same thing is happening on the shores of Michigan. Tomorrow on the National Weather Desk, we'll find out what's causing all the dead fish. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Angela Brown. We'll see you right back here tomorrow.